Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And today we are going to talk about a little blue fellow that's just warmed the hearts of millions and billions around the globe for a better part of 30 years, just about as long as I have. I also am another blue fellow who has charmed the hearts of millions and billions around the globe. Okay, I'm not blue, but I'm wearing a blue shirt, and that counts for something. I'm also talking into a Yeti blue microphone, so that counts for something. My favorite color is blue. Possibly because of this little blue guy who has touched the hearts of millions and billions around the globe for the better part of 30-something years. We're talking about Mega Man. I'm not going to give our spiel because you all know that, because you all know what to do. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Head over to YouTube where we have monetized each and every one of our podcasts on the YouTube podcast feature. So now just like, comment, subscribe, and do all those things. Give us money on patreon.com/whydoesthisexist and find us on social media, facebook.com/whydoesthisexistpod. We kept it short and sweet for a special treat that you could put your feet in between the sheets. Here's the news. That's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. What do you got for us, Rob?
Oh, so Mega Man. Mega Man is, of course, a video game that's been out. The original was released in 1987, so, going on, into its fourth decade here of being around. And it was originally released on the NES. And for, people that were like alive at that time and actually bought the game, they were like, they would go to the game store, pick up the box and see this crazy friggin' artwork, because for some reason the North American releases artwork is like the most ridiculously bad, like weird looking thing, where Mega Man is like it looks like Miami, Florida. There's palm trees in the background, and he's wearing a yellow and blue jumpsuit and has a pistol.
He also looks like he's constipated.
Yeah, he looks like he's trying to take a dump on the middle of the street while there's flying friggin' biscuits flying at him. Yeah. So, people would go into the video store, pick up this and be like, what the hell is this game? And then,
unsurprisingly, the first game did not sell well in America.
Right. Which is, sucks, because it was a great game, and, if people actually like look past the box art and actually play the game, they would see the box art really has nothing to do with what the game is, because whoever decided that was friggin' smoking crack at the time, probably.
Yes, but you would only know that if you had picked up a video game magazine at the time, and most people, I would say most people didn't, or like most of the people going to pick this up are like parents renting video games for their kids, or buying video games for their kids, and they would only know if a friend had it, or if like an older brother like had it of somebody's in class or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you really just had to know by word of mouth. But if you look at the Japanese artwork, it's awesome, and there's nothing wrong with it, and there's no reason why they needed to change it at all. But except Mega Man, of course, was original. In Japan, he was created and known as Rockman.
Yes.
So because the creator Keiji Inafune, he loves rock and metal, and he figured that would be the central point to connect everybody, would be music. So that would be the central idea, which is also why the music in the video games is really top notch.
Yes.
And Mega Man, he's Rock Man in Japan, and his sister is Roll, so it's rock and roll. And then there's other characters like bass and treble
Yeah.
that we get later on, and there's and that's really just Mega Man in a nutshell. It's all about like rock music, and then we have other characters that are like well, the various robot masters, and that's like well, we'll get into that part too. But it's a super awesome, fun game, and if you look at the original box art, you're like, wow, this is cool. This explains exactly
Mhm.
what it needs to explain. Like it's a blue robot in distress trying to fight all these big bad other robots. I'm in. And for some reason they like in America they didn't really get it. So they were like, "Well, why is he called Rockman? He's not made of rocks. He doesn't
Yeah.
shoot rocks. He doesn't push rocks." Like they were looking for more of a literal sense because, well, America, and they didn't really understand the original name, so they slapped it. So they changed the name and they slapped the words Mega Man on it, which, to be
It worked.
fair, I think is a better name.
Yeah.
I think it makes more sense. So I think they got it right there. But then I don't understand why they bothered to do the other artwork, and it's not really anything that anyone's really been able to uncover. Whenever Capcom's been asked about it, they've always kind of said no comment, and then that's as far as it gets. So it just means somebody was smoking crack in the marketing department and decided that they were like, oh, we have unused art from something, so let's just do this.
Yeah, this artwork from Japan is too cartoony. We need to make it more like manly and action packed for the American teenagers, and just made it look fucking stupid. But
Yeah.
anyway, the game was pretty fun. Actually, so growing up,
It
I
actually,
didn't.
well, Mega Man 2's box artwork in America is like slightly better because he's at least blue, but he still has a gun and like
Yeah,
he still looks kind of weird. But they got it right in Mega Man 3, which took them long enough.
he looks like he's wearing a police helmet in the Mega Man 2 box art almost. Like it's got like a visor on it,
Yeah,
which
he looks like a weird RoboCop.
yeah. Um so I didn't actually growing up, I never played the original Mega Mans. Like those were a little bit before my time. I actually really got into Mega Man with the X series, which
Yes,
was for Super Nintendo.
Mega Man X is actually my favorite video game of all time.
Yeah, it's definitely up there on mine. It's a great game. Um, so basically, the basic premise of Mega Man is that you play as Mega Man or Rockman, as he's known in Japan, and he's a robot that was created by Doctor Light. And Doctor Wily is
Dr. Thomas Light.
yes, yes, and Doctor Wily, who
Dr. Albert Wily.
yes, is the enemy. And he was originally Dr. Light's partner, but he goes rogue and creates all the robot masters.
Well, he gets jealous.
Yeah.
They were college buddies, and well, obviously their names are taken from Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein. Dr.
Yes.
Wily looks more like Albert Einstein. Dr.
It's
Light looks he resembles Edison, but he
yeah.
doesn't quite look like him. But
He
Dr.
does.
Wily is pretty uncanny, like a crazy Einstein.
Yeah. So it's interesting the reason why they did that because having Dr. Light, the Thomas Edison analog being the good guy, and Dr. Wily, the Einstein analog, being the bad guy, because in real life they were opposites. Like
Yes.
Einstein was like a very kind and gentle man. He was obviously a genius, and Edison is often seen as like a shrewd businessman, and he
The
stole.
man is a complete heel.
Yeah, he stole his inventions from people that worked for him. He stole their inventions,
Yep.
passed it off as his own.
Yeah,
So he's really not a
he actually didn't even invent the light bulb. He didn't invent a lot of most things that he claims to have invented, he did not.
yeah.
There was
And
almost always somebody else like a very long time before that or right around the time, and all he did was was steal the patent, and he
yes,
like stole and he got the patent on it, so therefore he received the credit, but he didn't actually do any of it.
yeah,
Like he claims like motion pictures, he claims to have invented motion pictures and movies as we know it. The
Yes.
camera for motion pictures actually was invented by a Frenchman about like almost 100 years before that. But before he could do an exhibition and I think before he could go to the patent office or on his way to the patent office or on his way from an exhibition, he mysteriously disappeared and was murdered,
Hmm.
or believed to have been murdered. So that's an interesting one. But of course, Einstein somehow, I mean, not Einstein, um, Edison somehow got his hands on the patents and he like tweaked it and he got it to work. Probably one of his underlings got it to work, and then he just stole the idea like a true
Yeah.
madman. But yeah, the man is like a total. Einstein is actually a total sham and a big douche. If you go into the annals of
Edison,
time,
not Einstein.
Edison. I don't know why I keep doing that.
Yeah. But
But
yeah. So
I but
the
Einstein is a gentle soul who really just was great at math, a nice guy. He did marry his cousin, which is a little weird, but I'll
well,
give him
that
a
was
pass
common.
because
That was commonplace in that time.
it was. That's why I said I will give him a pass on that one.
W-
Um,
So the
but
reason why they did that the way they
yeah,
did, though, is
Einstein was great, and he didn't want to destroy anymore. He just wanted to make reindeer after the atom bomb.
yeah. So well, that's the reason why Einstein is portrayed as the bad guy of Dr. Wily in this game is because Einstein split the atom. Were assisted in the splitting of the atom, and
Yes.
Einstein's theories led to the atom being split and the development of the atom bomb, which was of course dropped on Japan twice. So
Yeah.
Japan holds some grudge against Einstein
Well,
for that, even though
I
he completely regretted, like he didn't like ever intend for his work to be used to make a weapon of absolute mass destruction like that.
I'm actually curious to see how they portray him in the Oppenheimer movie.
Yeah, that'll be
Um,
interesting.
but yes, you're right. He did but I mean, I can't say that I blame them.
No,
How would you feel if like an atomic bomb, God forbid, was dropped
yeah,
on your nation, which is also my nation, and then like 50 years ago, and like you would harbor like the whole culture would harbor some resentment against the person who built it
yeah.
or helped or like whose idea it was basically that laid the groundwork. So I can't really blame him there. So this is some form of Japanese retribution.
Yeah. So basically the whole plot is that Wiley has goes rogue and he starts making these robot masters to like to combat Mega Man, and as Mega Man you have to go and fight the robot masters, and then Mega Man's kind of ability is that when he defeats one of the robot masters he actually is able to use their powers. And this continued with Mega Man X, except in Mega Man X, the enemy robots were known as Mavericks rather than Robot Masters.
Yes, because this takes place. What is it? Is it 200 or a
I think it's
thousand
100.
years in the future,
It's
or
supposed to be
100?
100 years after Mega Man takes place.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Which Mega Man X is the last robot that Doctor Light creates, and
Yes.
instead of bringing it to life before he passes away, he decides that he's going to like lock it up and active, and he sets a timer on it to activate in 100 years in the future or something
Yeah.
of that nature.
Yeah.
So he thinks ahead, but the real reason why Dr. Wily goes rogue is because like I said, they were college buddies, and while they're university students, um, Dr. Wily he discovers this thing called the double gear,
Mhm.
where it where it can unlock. You see, Dr. Light and Dr. Wily have they both believe in robotics, but they both want to improve things separately in like different ways. Like Dr. Wily specifically wants robots to be physically stronger and more powerful than humans and just the human race and just be like smarter and everything. Where like he inadvertently plans and wants a Skynet kind of. Where Dr. Light is specifically he's looking to see how robots and mankind can work together for each other's benefits
Hmm.
and to help each other out. So he's looking as a humanitarian, while Dr. Wily is kind of looking more like for profit or more like to unlock to see. He's really looking to test the limits of robotics,
Hmm.
and he gets jealous because Dr. Light gets all the credit and all the fame and fortune because they discover that the double gear could have some unpleasant side effects where it could have a robot become sentient and turn against humanity and just kind of wreak havoc on there. And if the robot is too crazy and too powerful at the same time, thanks to the double gear, who can stop it? So they kind of like try to put the kibosh on it. And then Dr. Wily just says, you know what? I hate you guys. Go to hell. I'm gonna leave, but I'm taking my double gear with me. So he flees to his like secret island basically,
Hmm.
and he starts building the robot masters.
Yeah.
Continue.
Um. So anyway, Mega Man, his like he can absorb these robot masters' powers after he defeats them. And so the interesting thing, and this was like one of a kind at the time, is that if you could figure out that certain robot masters are weak to other robot masters powers, and this was like really unique for the time, because then you could figure out like the most ideal way to like go to each like level and get each power, so that way you could kind of like you have like that extra boost. And there wasn't a lot of video games that did that when the original Mega Man came out. It was
I
like
don't
it was a
think there
really
were really any.
no, it was a really innovative thing to like have like, oh, okay, this guy is like weak against like this guy's power, so if you kill him first, get his power, then you have the advantage when you go to this other guy's level.
Yes, and this is another thing that shows the testament of Keiji of Kaiji Inafune, that he wanted that the idea was and also the creators also were Akira Kitamura,
Hmm.
and the idea for this was rock paper scissors. So they took
Yeah.
simple ideas, and also like the reason that why Mega Man looks the way he looks is because Keiji Inafune, he actually wanted to be an animator, and he loved anime, so that's why Mega Man looks the way that he does. But he took, he just combined anime, rock paper, and he combined anime, rock music, and a simple game of rock paper scissors to like discuss to determine the mechanics of Mega Man. So just really simple idea, but like
Yeah.
just well executed.
Yeah. And so Mega Man X also added uh the ability to get like different armor pieces which did different things. Like you get the boots that allow you to do the like slide, and or this like dash. You could do like a dash across the ground, and then you get like a helmet that allows you to break blocks with it, and a better like cannon. So that was another like whole gameplay element that was added to Mega Man X that made it really like even more unique.
Yeah.
um but by that time
If you
Mega
got everything, you got this super omega armor that that
yes.
you could just blaze through the game in no time.
Yeah, you also got it because, of course, the game is made by Capcom. So, you can in Mega Man X, you could actually, it's like there's like a super secret ability where you could do like a Hadoken, and of course from Street Fighter, and it like does a massive amount of damage. Like I'm pretty sure you could kill bosses in one shot when you
I
get the
think you
Hadoken.
I think you can, or you
Yeah,
have to have the Hadoken with I think another type of armor or something. You have to like the point is once you figure this thing out, like you're pretty much gonna win if you can
yeah,
pull it off.
yeah. Um,
But the interesting thing really was like you had the choice, like you could beat this game however you want. You don't There's not like a hard set of rules as to
yes,
which robot master you can pick first. You pretty much just like you're just laid out in the middle of the map and you can just pick whichever. Like it's not quite open world design, but it's like it's multiple choice design basically. Like you
yeah,
like it's not a like it's not really that it's not that linear until you get to like the final boss stages.
It
But
kind of set the stage for like, non-linear games later on. Where
yes,
you could do the levels in any order you want, basically.
right. But there is, like you said, that sweet spot where if you figure out which order to beat the Robot Masters in,
Yeah.
then it makes the game much easier
Yes.
in some areas, but the games are themselves. Don't be mistaken; these are not the easy. These are
No,
not
they're
easy games.
incredibly hard, especially the original
Yes,
series. X, they kind of like dialed down the difficulty a little bit. It's still very hard, but it's not as
I
hard as the originals. The originals are insanely hard.
X is the only one that I've been able to beat. Just the original X game is the
Yeah.
only one that I've been able to actually beat consistently.
Yeah.
I cannot beat two. Two, I get up to the final boss stage and like stage 3 of 3, and I can't do it.
Yeah.
X3, not even close. I'm lucky if I can beat two of the Robot Masters.
Yeah.
I suck at Mega Man games. I'll be the first to tell you. I love these games, but I am bad at them.
Yeah. Um Yeah, they're just it's like not something to be ashamed of to be bad at them, because they're like very hard. Like you have
No,
to be
they're
especially, and like I said, like the original Mega Man, like those jumping, like the platforming is insane. Like you have like the one level where you have like the disappearing platforms, and you have to time it perfectly,
yes,
otherwise you just fall.
you have to be dead on balls accurate with this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, you do.
There's no way around it.
Yeah,
There is no, oh, I came close. There is no, oh, there's a shortcut here. It's just you have to just die and die and die and figure it out.
yeah,
And it takes a long time to figure out the pattern.
uh-huh,
And they get very tricky in some stages. They get faster.
yeah,
Like the game does gradually get harder if you do it in the proper order, but like it's still not easy.
yeah. Especially when you get to Wily's castle in the originals. Wily's castle is like regarded oftentimes as like one of the hardest levels in any video game of all time.
Yep.
Because obviously it's the final battle, but it's still it's just it's super hard. And back in 1987, when the game came out, there was no internet. You couldn't look up like strategies online. Like you just
No,
had to like
you
trial and
had
error and brute force through the game, or
yeah, if
or
you
have your
couldn't
friend come over that could like that was better than you and help you like get through the parts you couldn't get through,
yeah,
basically.
or you had to, or if you were lucky, then you could then your parents could afford to buy you the strategy guide,
Yeah.
which those things weren't cheap then.
Uh-huh.
They were about like $50 a pop. Like almost as much as the game. Well, yeah, about the same price as the game itself, really. So, if you were lucky, you got the strategy guide. But even then, like, you had to read the strategy guide, you had to study the strategy guide, and then you had to keep the guide open while you're playing the game, and you have to, like, keep pausing and looking down to read it.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't a simple process.
Yeah.
Like, it was just fun. Or like, so many, there were just so many, like, just times where I just was like hanging out with my friends when I was, a young kid, or like just going to somebody's house really, and we just took turns trying to beat Mega Man, and none of us could do it, or we'd each get a little bit closer each time, and then we'd write down the codes, because like when you die too many times or when you beat a level, you get a code that like holds your place, because the games couldn't save at
Mm-hmm.
that point. So you had the code that like took you back to where you were essentially, and then we'd go somebody else's house, or we'd have to wait like 2 weeks, because you'd like, your friend has the game, but you would say, wait, we have to beat it together, we can't like don't play the game until I come over again.
Yeah.
And your friend, if they were a good friend, they would have to abide by that, or at least they'd have to not tell you, or like, and if they did, then they would just say, "Hey, I went ahead because I wanted to figure out how to beat this, but we could start from where we were, and then it's fine."
Hmm.
But and they would just like tell you, "Hey, you have to do this," because they'd let you do it usually.
Yeah.
So this was what hanging out was. This was what it was like to be a kid
Oh
in
yeah.
the 80s and 90s. It
Me
was
and
freaking awesome.
Yeah, I remember very vividly me and my buddy Caulfield, like we sat in my basement playing Super Nintendo for literally hours
Yes.
until we finally beat Mega Man. It took us literally so many tries, especially because you had lives too. Like you could get a game
Yes.
over and you'd have to restart from the beginning. So like we like friggin' literally would just brute force and take turns, trial and error until we finally got to Sigma's castle. And I'm pretty sure like at one point we got literally up to Sigma to when he's in like the spider form. And then we
Mm.
died and game over. And we like fucking like threw the controller across the room. We were like, oh my God. Like we were so far.
Like I said
Uh
in the Bomberman episode, I got grounded for breaking things and cursing
yeah,
lots of times because of trial and error.
yeah,
And I mean, I'd like to think that I got better, but I didn't.
yeah,
I just got older. So,
yeah.
but I'd have to ground. But like if but sometimes my dad sees me playing video games if he comes over while I'm playing, and he starts laughing at me cursing, and then I'm like, "Would you ground me?" And he'd say, "Well, I'm too old now." And he's like, "You're too old for me to ground you, and you don't live in this house." But I would.
Yeah.
So
Um,
a lot of fond memories at my buddy Fred's house. If you're listening, well, I'm sorry, but it sucks. Sucks to be you, Fred.
there were other spin-off series in the uh Mega Man franchise that I never played. Like Mega Man Legends, which was like a 3D came out for PlayStation 1 and N64 and was like a
I
third
I
person kind of
I
one. I never
played
played
Mega
it.
Man X a couple of times. I don't really remember it that well.
Much.
I played it a couple of times at I played Legends and then Mega Man 64
Which
at
is the
my
same game. They just like
essentially.
the 64 port they just called Mega Man 64, but it was basically Mega Man Legends.
Yeah. So I I played it at my buddy Sean's house because he rented it from Blockbuster. If anyone remembers those good old days,
Hmm.
and everybody's talking about the good old days. And I also had rented it once or twice, and I it's not that I just can't remember it. I know I got like I didn't get super far in the game. I got maybe to like a few levels in,
Yeah.
but it wasn't it wasn't the same. So I kind of just got bored with it.
Yeah.
It was like it had nothing. I don't know if it really had anything to do with the game, with the game itself. I think it was real well with like the gameplay rather. I know the camera was a little funny,
Yeah.
but I
Camera had issues, and that was like kind of like one of the biggest complaints a lot of people had with that game was the camera was like fucked up.
yeah I vaguely remember not liking the camera, but
Yeah. I mean,
I thought the game itself was okay, but I just wasn't interested in it. And also, they took off his helmet for no reason.
yeah, I think they put it back in Mega Man Legends 2 actually cuz
I
people
think they
complained
did.
about it was a kind like that part, like the late mid to late 90s was kind of like this like wild west of 3D games because it was like, finally there were consoles powerful enough to like have like regular 3D games and it wasn't like just like, like shitty like kind of gimmicky games like they were actually like this was the standard. So everybody was kind of experimenting with 3D games. Like every like game that had been out that was a 2D game on the like Super Nintendo or like previous other consoles had a 3D version on N64 or PlayStation. Like they just had to do it. Um so like there was no standardized like okay, this is how cameras should work. This is how like jumping should work. Like everyone was kind of like really experimenting at that time and some people did it well, like Super Mario 64, and some people did it really badly, like Bubsy 3D. And then you had games in between like Mega Man Legends, which weren't terrible, but like they still had issues.
Yeah.
So it was, again, it was just like an experimental time. There was no standard. There was no thing they could like, you had Mario 64, but no one wanted to like copy Mario 64's like formula. They wanted to try to do their own thing and see if they could do it better. So it was a weird time. Mega Man
Superman
Legends.
couldn't do it.
Well, Superman. Oh my God. Yeah, that was just. Yeah.
The less said about Superman 64, the better.
Yeah. Mega Man Legends did do one thing, and that was it introduced the serve bots, which kind of became like almost like a their own little mascot of Capcom and Mega Man. Because like they were like these little robots that had like they almost looked like Lego men with like these big yellow heads and like little like chomper hands basically. They looked like Lego men basically, and they kind of became like a staple in a lot of Capcom things. Like for example, in Marvel vs. Capcom, you could play as Tron Bonne, who's from Mega Man Legends, and she like uses like an army of serve bots as like her finishing move, basically, that just come
Yes.
out and like wreck everybody.
Yep.
And then in what was it, Dead Rising, which was another Capcom game that came out like way later on for the Xbox 360
That
and
game is
PS3.
fun, but I
It
never
was fun.
I never owned it or got to beat it. I always played that at somebody else's house.
I owned it, but it was very hard because you had a time limit. Like you only had like 3 days to do everything. So it was like a game that you had to keep replaying over and over again in order to unlock everything. But like they had the serve bot like head. You could like wear the serve bot head. And it was just like in a zombie game, but of course, Capcom made it, so it kind of became one of Capcom's like staples, the serve bots. And like people like cosplay as them. They wear the serve bot heads as cosplays and stuff, and it became like a cultural icon for Capcom in some ways. Even some ways more so than Mega Man. I think a lot of people will recognize the serve bots before they even recognize Mega Man, basically. But Mega Man also, so we had Mega Man Legends, of course, and then there was Mega Man Battle Network, which I had played one of them. I don't remember which. I think it was for GameCube.
That one I never tried.
It was not that good. I think the problem is when I got it, I was expecting it to be like a lot like Mega Man X, and it was not at all like Mega Man X. And I think that was the biggest problem with it. So I just found it kind of boring, and I never really beat it.
Tron Bonne actually has her own game too, but I've never played that one.
I never played it either. It was part of the Mega Man Legends franchise, like or series. But I never played it.
Oh. And there's a ton others. There's the there's the other battle networks, and there's Mega Man Network Transmission. There's Rockman EXE.
Yeah,
the Battle Chip Challenge. There's a lot of battle stuff. Most of the other games are battle. There's also the Star Force, which I don't know what the hell that is. I've never heard of that.
I never either. It was probably Japan only, I would say, maybe.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Mega Man's also made a lot of cameo appearances in other video games.
Yes, he has. Most people have probably wrecked other people alongside Cable and Iron Man or War Machine in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Of course. There was also Onimusha Blade Warriors, which was basically almost like a Smash Brothers knockoff featuring a number of Capcom characters.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was in that.
Mostly from the Onimusha series, but also, Mega Man and Zero were also playable characters in that.
Oh, I never played the Onimusha games. I heard that they were a lot of fun, actually.
They are a lot of fun. It's like, if you're a fan of Resident Evil, it's like that, except in feudal Japan, and you have swords instead of guns.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, it's similar with the camera style, how, like, it's a fixed camera, and, like, you kind of, like, walk around the level, and it, like, changes camera angles like that. But it's a really fun game. I'm a big fan of the Onimusha games. They're a lot of fun. And then of course, more recently, Mega Man has been featured in a couple of the Smash Brothers games. He was in, I believe, originally the Smash Brothers for the Wii U, and then they, of course, the newest Smash Brothers Ultimate for Switch, because that contains every character that's ever been in a Smash game before. So
Or
they, of course, included Mega Man in that. So he's not. There's been a lot of different cameos with that. Mega Man has also had a number of TV shows.
yes,
There was
I
a
do remember watching the animated show
Yep.
as a kid.
Yeah, there was
Um,
a
I believe
he
it
was
came on Channel 4,
yeah.
like
Uh
pretty early in the morning, like not super early, but like early enough.
yeah.
Was
Yeah, it
that
was
like
one of those
7 or
like
8 o'clock?
they always had those blocks of like anime and like cartoons in the mornings on like the network ABC had like one Saturday morning, WB had Kids WB, and like they all had like a little block of cartoons in the mornings.
Yeah.
So
The Mega
that
Man
was
one
Saturday
show,
morning cartoons.
yes, it was. And Mega Man would come on fairly early, but Mega Man also came on during the week,
Yeah.
like at inopportune times for a child because I'd still wanted to go to bed. I mean, even inopportune times for an adult because I still would want to be in bed at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Mega Man apparently was also in Captain N the Game Master, which I never watched because again, that was a little bit
I
before
don't
my
know what
time.
that is.
It was Captain N the Game Master was it was an animated TV show that was like it featured a number of different video game characters.
Was it like is the N supposed to be Nintendo?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a lot of Nintendo characters. And I think they also had like Simon Belmont was in it, Kid Icarus,
What?
Mega Man. Yeah, it was like a lot. Like mother like it was basically like Smash Brothers before Smash Brothers was Smash Brothers, except it was a TV show.
All right, we're gonna have to do an episode on this. I'm
Yeah, we
calling
actually
for
may
it.
have to because it had like so the main villains were Mother Brain from Metroid, King Hippo from Punch Out, Eggplant Wizard from Kid Icarus, and Dr. Wily.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Minor villains included Donkey Kong, Dracula, Alucard, Ganon from Legend of Zelda.
I have to watch this shit.
Yeah.
This sounds too wacky to not watch. This sounds too wacky to not have an episode on this.
It's crazy that it was like all these franchises came together, but of course they were all on Nintendo consoles, so I think that's how they kind of got away with it. But you would never see a show like this now, like with so many like unless it was like a Marvel like show or something where they had all the Marvel characters. But like to have so many different characters from so many different franchises, like it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it also would be expensive to make because everybody like is so greedy and needs to license everything now.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm sure back then it was just like more of like a handshake and like an agreement to like split the royalties.
Yeah.
When people were civilized
Before the
and
dark
not
times.
and not capitalist degenerates, or at least not as or capitalist for sure, but not as degenerative.
Capitalists, but they still recognize what was best for business and not just what was best for the fucking shareholders.
Yeah, exactly. Pre-Jack Welch, basically, or during Jack Welch, during his rise up the ladder under the original system, where he probably would have gotten canned using his own system. I find that fascinating. Do you think? I don't. We're not going to talk about that stuff around here, but like, I really have like, I suspect that had Jack Welch not been the evil CEO who destroyed America, basically, I suspect that if he had been working under his own policies, I don't think he would have lasted that long, and I don't think he would have made it that far.
Probably.
But anyway, that's not that's enough about that and real life and reality. We're going to go back to talking about video games and a little blue robot who actually was supposed to be white.
Oh.
He was originally just going to be just white. He wasn't going to be like the intention for him to be blue had nothing to do with like there was no intention behind it for him to become blue.
Uh-huh.
They really just decided that that's what looked best on the console.
I mean, that makes sense
Like
because a lot of times they would make
it
a lot of
does.
different color decisions based on the 8-bit nature of the NES because they only had so many colors they could work with, and certain colors would look like crap.
Right.
Uh, and you could see
They
that
only
with
had, well, because the color palette only had, I think, 56 colors there that
yeah,
they could choose from.
yeah.
And I think that's what it was, that it just nothing really looked good except blue.
Well, and you'll note that if you look at a lot of like, especially this was especially true of like movie tie-in games where they tried to use a lot of like white colors, they look like absolute garbage because it looks like just black and white. Like there's no like depth or color or anything.
Yeah.
And like
It
you look at
just
like the
it just looks like
Terminator.
it just looks like an unfinished, like badly drawn thing.
Yes. Yeah, like the Terminator video game on NES looks terrible, and the Wayne's World, go harken back to Wayne's World last week. The Wayne's World video game for the NES looks like absolute dog shit. So
Well, the game is absolute dog shit, but
yes,
that's another story altogether.
yeah, yeah. So using the blue color was actually a pretty smart idea because it made Mega Man stand out. And
Yeah.
and he does change colors because when you destroy a robot master and you get his power, you change to that robot master's color when you
Yes, you
switch to that
do.
power. So it's cool, and I like the way they did it in Mega Man X because you had the armor pieces that you get, and it kind of
That's
gives you
what I liked a lot too,
it gives
was
you this
that
like silver look almost because it's like this cool super armor.
yeah.
And then like the armor out like that also changes when you change like your power that you're using too, which was really cool. But you look at the box art for like the original Mega Man X, and I remember like seeing that when I when I was a kid, I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like this looks
Yeah.
so badass. And like when you finally get every piece of armor in it, you just look so cool, you know?
Yeah, and well, I also like how, I mean, they do this in the Mega Man games as well. Is like at the end, after you beat a robot master and you steal his powers, you collect you collect your scalp, so to speak,
Yeah.
and and it shows him, like, it shows the demonstration of what your cool new
Yes.
power is, which
Yeah.
is freaking sweet. But in Mega Man X, it's particularly cool because there's like that little, like, that little, like, hero music, and then it like cuts to, and then like he cuts it off with this super cool, like, hell yeah motion, but like
Yes.
there's that big sheen that
Yeah.
comes out,
Like
and it like
his like
stops
jewel
the
on his head
music.
like goes like bing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
really cool.
it is just super badass for him to do the superhero pose, and like, it really makes you feel like, whoa, I did something. But then when it shows him doing the thing, like, he does it again, and it's like, wow, okay, like, he does get that extra, like, sheen to him.
Oh, I want to talk
um
about like we had mentioned the music a little bit before, but the music specifically for Mega Man X is just so friggin' good.
oh
And
yeah,
like so many
it's covered, but like that, like, the music
yes.
of Mega Man has inspired so many, like, just real music in real life.
Yeah, and a lot of metal bands have covered and like, you can
Yes.
go on YouTube and watch like metal bands playing Mega Man X tunes because they're literally like metal music. Like
Yeah.
of course it's limited by it was limited at the time by the Super Nintendo sound chip. So, it's like Super Nintendo sound. But like if you actually like play the songs on like real guitar, they're like badass songs.
Oh
It's
yeah,
almost like
they're
listening to like Yngwie Malmsteen or like freaking Dragon Force or something.
Yeah, it's hard to do. Like they're
Yeah.
pretty complicated songs, but like, I mean, most people will probably know the Storm Eagle
Yes.
theme song cover by Power Glove. With our friend Alex, who was one of the 5 listeners of this show, not including our parents, possibly. He took me down to see the Video Game Orchestra one year, which is the band that um they produce a lot of the music and they write and produce and record a lot of the music that you'll hear on various Nintendo and Capcom products.
Mhm.
So like anything on like the more recent Super Mario games, you'll like that's them. If you hear metal music on like Marvel vs. Capcom, that's them.
Mhm.
In like the more recent Mega Man games, that is also them. So they do a ton of stuff. They
Yeah.
covered the Spark Mandrill theme when we
Oh
saw
yeah.
them, and that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And it's like every single like level theme song in Mega Man is just a banger. And like Zero's theme and like everything. It's just so good. Like every single song is a banger. Like what other video game? There's not many. There's a couple that have really great soundtracks, but like Mega Man is definitely up there as one of the greatest video, like X specifically.
Yeah.
The original Mega Man soundtrack is great too. Don't get me wrong, but like X specifically, the original Mega Man X, like it's literally like I would buy that as an album.
Oh
Like
yeah.
absolutely buy it as an album. That's how good it is.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's other bands that have just covered this music, but there's
Yeah,
also bands that have been just totally inspired by Mega Man. Like you have,
yeah,
there's like an indie rock group called the Proto Man, which we didn't speak about him yet, but their first two albums, like we didn't talk about Proto Man, who is an essential character of Mega Man,
hmm
um, and well, essentially the prototype for Mega Man, basically Mega Man's half brother in a way. Um, and Mega Man's dog Rush also have to give him a little
Oh
push
yeah,
there. That's like kind of the main differentiator between Mega Man and Mega Man X is in Mega Man you had like the extra mechanic was you could call his dog Rush
yeah,
in like for a limited time and you could use him to jump to get to high places
yeah. It was like
like
a
to help you get out
springboard
of a
basically.
pinch. Yeah, but he was a very limited resource, so you had to use him
Yeah,
sparingly.
yeah,
But yeah, always loved Rush, but he's not in the Mega Man X games obviously because it's a different robot altogether. 100
yeah,
years in the future, we covered this. And also there's Zero, which is essentially the Mega Man's brother, like that was also designed alongside him in
yeah.
secret.
Yeah,
Um,
Zero's kind of like the older brother. Like he's like more
yes,
upgraded. He has a sword, which is freaking awesome.
yeah, and you
Uh,
get to use it later on.
yeah, yeah. Zero becomes a playable character in the later X games, and they actually made a whole series called Mega Man Zero that was just
Yes,
like based off of Zero
yeah, and
himself.
those were good too, but those are a little tough,
Yeah,
like
and
all
they
of
were a
them.
little later on. Again, that was like a little after my time. Like I played them before, but it was like I didn't like play them when I was growing up because like they came out later on.
Yeah, I
So
mean the later Mega Man X games they get better graphically, but like a lot of people are not crazy about them, like
yeah,
from the gameplay.
the
Just
first four are definitely the best ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the music. There's the Proto Man. Their first two albums are they're a rock opera based on Mega Man. The first one is the Proto Man, and part two, and the next one is Act Two, the Father of Death.
Mhm.
There's also another. There's also Power Glove, like we said, in the video game orchestra, like we said, and countless others. There's also the Megas, which just only covers the music of the original Mega Man games
Mhm.
for Nintendo. I don't know if they do the Mega Man. I don't know if they do the Mega Man X stuff yet, or if they have, or if they will do them, or if they're even still together. I don't know. I haven't really listened to them extensively, but that's what I was getting at was when you were like, I would definitely buy this album because funny you should say that. You can actually get their albums, Get Equipped, um, as well as History Repeating Blue and History Repeating Red. So you could actually kind of sort of get those albums, but there's also an indie rap artist called Mega Ran
Yeah, I
who
was actually going to mention Mega
remixes.
Ran.
Yeah, I haven't heard this guy, so
Yes,
I'm
he's great.
curious to check him out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go. So he's actually he sampled like he did an album called Maverick Hunters.
Mm.
So obviously it's about Mega Man. He did a whole concept album of Final Fantasy VII
Oh,
called
that's cool.
Black Materia, and he actually sampled the music of Final Fantasy VII and for his beats and stuff, and it is awesome. It's like a
Nice.
whole like it just tells the story of Final Fantasy VII. It's great.
Well,
Um,
he holds the Guinness World Record for the most songs recorded referencing Mega Man, which I didn't know was a
well,
thing. But
yeah,
I guess if you just do something a bunch of, I guess if you do something crazy enough times to be recognized, then like Guinness will just say, "Here you go."
Yeah.
He's done it 130 times, possibly more
Wow.
by now. So good for him.
Yeah.
But some people, they just want to work and make cool stuff, and they don't want to destroy anymore, and they want to make reindeer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always nice. But
Yeah.
it's it's just such a great concept, and everyone will always love this guy.
Yeah.
They'll always love this little blue robot that, like I said, won the hearts of millions and billions across the globe over a span of 30 odd years.
Yeah.
And ain't that the truth, Ruth? But
There was also there's been a number of games that were kind of like inspired heavily by Mega Man. Um Mighty Number 9 was crowdfunded by Kickstarter. I never played it. I heard it was okay. It was kind of considered a like spiritual successor to Mega Man.
it did flop really hard though because
It did
like
kind of. It didn't live up to expectations, I think, but it was actually like created by Keiji Inafune. Like he was the lead designer on the project.
no, that's a shame.
Yeah. There was also 20X. So the problem was that there was another game called 20XX, which is another indie platform video game that came out, which was like another like Mega Man kind of like S game, and that was like way better. And I think that's
Okay.
the problem is that kind of like people were like, "Wow, this is like a way much better game," so they kind
Mm,
of like just went towards that.
okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense. That sucks, but it makes sense. Because I remember like seeing that Mighty, like all of the hype for Mighty Number Nine, and people were like, like were raving about this thing until it came out, and then
yeah.
like it just got panned, and like people said that it didn't work, or like it wasn't good, or it
I
didn't
think it,
do all
it
these
just
things. Like it got like trashed
it
really heavily.
it got
And I'm not
overhyped.
sure if it's like that. I'm not sure if it was like I was never sure if it was as bad as people said that it was, or if it like or if like you said, if it was just overhyped and
It was overhyped.
it just could not deliver
Yes,
whatever was expected of it because the
and that's
expectations were too high.
yeah, and that's the problem with a lot of these like crowdfunded games is that they get overhyped because like they overhype it so they can get people to crowdfund it, and then when it actually comes out, it's like not as good as they were saying because they just overhyped it so they can get the money to make the game.
Mm.
And I think that's the problem that happened. And similar. I think we talked about this a little bit with when we did the Banjo Kazooie episode with Ukulele, because Ukulele was not was it was a good game. I don't. I'm going to preface that. Like I have Ukulele. I love that game, but I think it was
I
a
have it
little
too.
bit. It was a little bit overhyped, and it kind of it when that also was released, it kind of got like more like towards like the average rather than good reviews. It was kind
Mm.
of like a 6 out of 10 kind of because it was overhyped and it couldn't live up to the expectations of it, and that happens a lot with crowdfunded games. I think the only crowdfunded game that I've played that like I don't think was overhyped at all that actually lived up and like beyond the expectations was what's it called? Hold on, I have to look up.
Bloodstained.
Yes, Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night. Because it was like a great game. and not only did they like live up like to expectations and beyond, they released another game at the same exact like right before Ritual of the Night came out called Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon, which was like a throwback to the original Castlevania games like on the NES.
I
And they
never
did that
played
out of
those, but I
nowhere.
wanted to. You,
Yeah.
I remember you told me how great they are, but I
Yeah.
just I had never gotten around to playing them.
They are really good. It's like if you're a
Yeah,
fan of Castlevania, they are like I think we spoke about this on the Castlevania episode also.
I'm sure
Uh
we did.
they're great games. But yeah, that was the problem with Mighty Number 9 though, is that it kind of like got like overhyped and then like did not live up to the expectations that they set out for it.
Mm.
Which unfortunately is a lot of crowdfunding games, it looks like.
It happens.
I
What can
think
you do?
crowdfunding has kind of died off a little bit. Like there was a huge about 10 years ago, 10 like probably about 10 years ago to around like 5 years ago, there was like this huge like crowdfunding push. Like everything was like about crowdfunding.
I mean, we did a crowdfunding
Yes,
campaign, for God's sakes.
we did.
We failed miserably, but we did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Should have done Indiegogo,
Yes.
not instead of Kickstarter. We would have at least saved something,
Yeah.
but that's okay. It was like I do remember that like you couldn't that like every time you logged onto Facebook, there was always like 10, there was at least like 5 to 10 like new things that one of your friends was crowdfunding, or like
Yes.
that, or like a crowdfunding ad for something, or if you like went to any like video game journalism website, or like I mean, it didn't even have to be that, it was just anything, was just getting a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo for it, and you were like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Like I knew a couple of other people who had like my good friend Lewis had he did some Indiegogo campaigns for some of his projects while he was in film school.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just crazy. You could not get away from a crowdfunded thing.
No, and it really, you don't really hear much about it anymore. It kind of died off a little bit, I think.
You see it a lot with board games now.
Yes, yeah,
you
and
see
card
it with
games.
board games and card games like Sorcery, which I hope, like, I hope does very well. I like Flesh and Blood took off from that, and that's like kind of like, I wouldn't. It's definitely not the number 2 card game, but I think it's like it's getting very popular very quickly, especially since like all, as we talked about in the Magic episode,
Wizards of the Coast hates their fans and wants to destroy the company.
Yeah, so like the more people that they run off, the more people that Flesh and Blood picks up, and so many of those people who have been run off of Magic are like super hyped about Sorcery, and Sorcery looks awesome, honestly.
Yeah.
If I just didn't want, like, the problem is I just don't want to spend the money to get into a new hobby.
Yeah.
Because I've spent too much money on what on my current hobbies.
Yeah.
Between Magic and like between Magic and video games and guitars, I'm tapped out. The wife says I'm tapped out. So I can't do that. Oh, and comic books too. How could I forget? So yeah, I'm pretty tapped out of things that I can actually do, of things that I can get into. But yeah, I would probably try. I would probably try. Like I would like to try Flesh and Blood and Sorcery, but I simply can't.
Yeah.
But I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah.
But back to Mega Man, I did want to talk about Proto Man a little bit, because Proto Man is like a lot of people's favorite characters, and Proto Man is essentially Mega Man's stepbrother or half brother, and it's interesting because Mega Man came from Proto Man. If you're looking at the lore, Proto Man was Dr. Wily's invention, and he used I believe he used the double gear on him. And Proto Man was great. Proto Man did exactly what he was supposed to do, but the thing was, Dr. Wily could not really control him, because it turned out that instead of making him bad, the double gear made Proto Man, like, it just made him, like, basically, if Proto Man were Pinocchio, the double gear made him a real boy. He ended up getting like he had a whole personality, and he cared about things, and he learned much quicker, and he became a lot more sentient, and he just wanted to just do his own thing, and he wasn't interested in like doing Dr. Wily's bidding or anything. He just wanted to live his life, and Dr. Wily couldn't have that, so he told him he was broken and everything. And there's also like like an evil Proto Man that he creates later. I forget his name. I think it's Dark Blue or something like that, where like it's in one of the other Mega Man games where like you team up with Proto Man to stop him. But Proto Man he's more prominently seen in the animated show. But Proto Man is like, and in some of the Mega Man games, you can actually play as Proto Man, and
Yeah.
in the Super Smash, in Smash Ultimate, there's a costume that Mega Man has that resembles Proto Man's
Mm-hmm.
outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to throw that in there because otherwise people would be really pissed off at us if we didn't mention
Of course.
Proto Man.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them because I like Proto Man too. I think he's a swell cat.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to leave this on was that we almost got a Mega Man live action movie. Now, whether or not that would have been good is up for debate. Looking at the time that it would have come out, I think it would have been horrible. I think Mega Man, if it's ever going to be made into a movie, it needs to be done the Super Mario way.
Yes.
But I don't want Illumination to do it because Illumination doesn't hire real voice actors for the leads, and I think that's messed up.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, just take the animation team, but like, fire the casting director and pick someone who actually gives a shit about the IP.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on what they should do with it. But this movie was actually going to come out. I don't know when it was supposed to come out, but they were working on it up until about 2018, I believe. When Disney when Disney bought when Disney acquired Fox. You see, 20th Century Fox was going to work on the Mega Man movie, and they had like a whole like web domain for it, and like they acknowledged that they were developing it, and that CEO Peter Chernin was going to produce it, and they were going to get all these people like working on it. And like Fox was gonna make the Mega Man movie, and they got the rights for like after like a couple of years of trying. They got it in 2017. They were like writing it. They had everything like ready. They were getting it ready. It was in development. I guess it would have been okay if they went the Sonic the Hedgehog route and like it was like
Yeah.
that had
Hybrid.
been proven to be good in a hybrid sense because again they listened to the fans
Yeah.
and like both of the Sonic live action movies are actually really good. I like them a lot. But they listened to the fans, so like they got the best possible result. So I guess it wouldn't be terrible. But as long as they don't go the original Super Mario Brothers route with it, then it
God.
would then like
Cursed. That
God
movie's
help us
cursed.
all, and God forbid you both like to direct this thing.
Oh God, that's even worse.
But they were going to do this, and they had announced that it was in development in 2018. They were ready to do it. It was gonna happen. And then Capcom also was like, "Yeah, that's awesome, good." And they like wanted, and they were like, they wanted to like pump up Mega Man when like Mega Man 11 came back because it was the first Mega Man game in like years.
Yeah.
Really. So they were like, okay, we got to make this extra special so that people will want to go see this. And like we got Mega Man 11 coming, and then like in another year we'll probably get the movie. And well, another year came around, and Disney acquired Fox, and then Bob Iger, who at the time was great, and now that he's back, he's an idiot, just like the old Bob. I don't know what happened, but I guess 3 years can make you an idiot. I don't know. The man has lost touch with reality, and his feet are impossibly too far from the ground to be reeled in. So Bob Iger decides that we bought Fox, but now there's all this debt, and there's all these like Fox movies that we don't really care about. Like Disney really just bought Fox for the Marvel IP that they couldn't get. So like the X-Men and Spider-Man and stuff, and also the Simpsons. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of things that we're interested in, but not that much. Everything else, they were like, well, who cares about this? That's not it. Look, guess what's not happening now? And they just they cut a bulk of their projects, and one of them is believed to be the Mega Man movie that was cut. Mm-hmm. They were originally going to produce it in 2020. It had been said that in January 2020, they decided that they were going to do this movie. It came out that this guy Mattson Tomlin, I don't know who the hell he is, but he was going to be rewriting the Mega Man script, and it seemed like Peter Chernin, Disney canned him for reasons that are still debated to this day. It was also really weird. They fired him at like a very odd time, and it didn't make sense, and people really liked him, and they had like propped him up as like being like a great guy, only to turn around and say, "Oh, he's gone." So it was very odd, but typical corporate cutthroat bullshit. And they canned this guy, and right after, like it's comes out that and like Peter Chernin starts his own production company anyway, because what else you gonna do? So he gets this guy Mattson Tomlin to start rewriting the script. They're gonna do it, and they were gonna do this movie. They were gonna do these like movies with Netflix, and then they were like ready to do stuff, and somehow it just didn't happen. They just, for whatever reason, they just canned it at 20. They just canned it around like 2021, 2022. But now they're like rewriting the screenplay or something.
Yeah.
As of 2022, but I don't really know where it's going. So maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. This thing has been in development hell for almost 10 years now. So
yeah,
we'll see if we get it. If we do, I hope that they do the right thing with it. But it seems like they want to, but I don't know, because they're at least playing the video games to like research the property. So at least they care. That's the first step. Yeah, that's the first step. But the live action direction, I don't know. I guess I'd have to wait and see.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'd say the jury's out on that one until the trailer comes out, and then even then, I may or may not decide to go see it anyway out of morbid curiosity. So, if we ever get the Mega Man film, we'll get it. I think the animated series is plenty. If you want to go, and we also have a ton of anime and comics to choose from. So if you want to like look for other non video game adaptations, I think you've got plenty to choose from. That being said, I am morbidly curious to see it, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
but just to wrap it up, I guess Mega Man, it is an absolute pleasure to play these games that make me curse so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have so much fun yelling at the TV and saying, "Oh, God damn it," and creating curse words that I will not echo on the air because, well, they're not great. Let's just say I combine a lot of verbs and swear words and nouns that just shouldn't go together. And the cursing gets creative. Not as creative as when I played Donkey Kong Country Returns, which is, well, it is deceptively hard on purpose, and it's really mean, and I refuse to play Tropical Freeze because they made that harder, so no thank you. Also, for some reason, the game has been out for like 12 years, and it's still $60 on the Nintendo Switch store. What the hell is up with that? You can't. I think the Wii U that it was originally released for is less than $60.
Yeah.
So So go figure that they want to strong arm this thing. But I'm not playing it anyway, and I'm definitely not playing it for full price. I feel like I've heard that in like certain. I've heard that in certain countries they use it as torture for interrogations. It's kind of like sometimes they let them choose between that and the waterboarding, and I've heard that more often than not they take the waterboarding. but I love playing the Mega Man games. Mega Man X is still my favorite. It's also the only one that I've ever actually beaten, but I beat it as
Yeah.
an adult and not a kid.
I
Sigma
did
was
beat it.
just hard as
I did
freaking
beat it.
all hell.
I did beat it as a kid. I will say that but like again, it was me and my buddy. It wasn't like just me alone. Like we had to team up and like trade off controllers.
Oh yeah, I had spent an entire afternoon at my friend Kenny's house in upstate New York. I stayed at his place for an Easter weekend because I was dorming. I was dorming in a college far away upstate near Canada, but not in Canada. Well, that's how. Like, I'll put it to you this way: we were like, I could walk. The It was built off of Lake Ontario, so I could. So I went swimming in Lake Ontario, even though I was still technically in America. That's how far up north it was. It was only about an hour away from from the border. So, yeah, I wasn't gonna buy a round trip bus ticket to go home on a Friday and come back on Easter Sunday, basically to make it to class on Monday. So, and they kicked everyone off campus for the holiday weekend because wow, wasn't that a great idea? Knowing that half of the school came from not upstate. So, stick that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm glad I didn't graduate from that place and give them more money that they didn't need and didn't deserve. But I digress. Um, I I went to my friend Kenny's place and he just had his N64, so I'm sorry, he had his Super Nintendo, so I was playing Super Nintendo while he went to go work. And I started playing Mega Man X when he left for work at 2 in the afternoon. He comes back at about 6, and I'm still playing it. And he's like, "Dude, do you want pizza? Wait, are you still playing that?" And I'm like, dude, I'm on Sigma. I'm like, "Shut the fuck up. I'm on Sigma." And he's like, "Oh shit, I'd never gotten to Sigma." I'm like, "Well, buckle up, Buttercup. I'm beating this fucking game. So if you want pizza, you better get delivery." So about 30 to 45 minutes later, I beat the game and we're both over the moon. We're in our early 20s at this point. So, yeah, we were like kids again. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah. Great guy. I hope he's doing Kenny, I hope you're doing well. I've got to give you a call. And if I don't give you a call, I'm going to let you know about this podcast and I'll just tell you it's a shit podcast, so you could just go to the end. Where I talk about you, and that'll be the nice thing that you take away, and you'll say, "Wow, Chris, what a nice guy," mentioning that one time, that one glimmer of hope in my life where I thought that I really had a chance.
If he doesn't listen to the whole podcast, how's he going to know to go to the end?
Oh, I'll just tell him.
Oh,
Mega Man, yeah.
Mega Man.
No, but Mega Man, it's a big part of my childhood. Mega Man X is my favorite game of all time. I love Mega Man forever, honestly. At the risk of sounding very uncool, I would actually consider getting a Mega Man X tattoo of Mega Man and like all the Robot Masters somewhere. It would be pretty sweet, but I'm not going to do it. One other thing that I actually liked a lot about Mega Man X, is if you beat the Robot Masters in the proper order, where like you rock paper scissors their weaknesses.
Yeah.
You could there was a clue, and the clue was if you tried the Robot Masters level before you did anything, it would be a lot harder, and there would be more going on in the background. Where if you defeated their weakness and then went to the Robot Masters stage, there was like a more like damaged level, and it was like broken apart, or like things wouldn't work like they would before.
Yeah, like when you defeat Storm Eagle, the ship that you're like fighting him on crashes into, I think, Sparkman Drill's level or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool little like Easter eggs that happen when you like do that.
Yeah,
so,
and also,
that was always a cool thing.
And also, if you beat Chill Penguin, I think Flame Mammoth's level becomes like not really like iced over, but it becomes like
the lava becomes hard and like you walk on it.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like no pun intended, but I always thought that was a really nice touch that like
yeah,
it could impact the rest of the Robot Masters too, and it would tell you that you're on the right track.
yeah,
But yeah, Mega Man, like it's it's an iconic character in video game history and one of the most beloved and most recognized characters of all time.
yeah,
Everyone knows who Mega Man is, and just about everyone has played the Mega Man games at some point or another, except for communists. Then what can you do? But they probably enjoy that lifestyle.
yeah,
Artists and like all this because Kaiji Inafune wanted to bring the world together with rock music.
yeah,
So there's something very kind to it. And also to get revenge on America for dropping the atomic bomb,
yeah,
lest we forget.
yeah,
But rock on, Rockman. Rock party on, Mega Man. Whatever you want to call him. He's my little blue guy. He's my pal. He's my buddy. He's touched the hearts of millions and billions across the globe for 30 odd years. Thank you, Mega Man, for getting us through some tough times. This has been Why Does This Actually what do you have to say about this before I cut you off?
that's pretty much it. It's a great game, and
Right.
it was just uh if anybody is interested in playing it, there is a number. I think there's Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2, and there's also Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2, which have all the games. So
There's also the Battle Network legacy set, I think, too.
I think so. Yeah. So they're re-releasing remasters of the game. So if you ever wanted to check them out, they're available on your major game platform.
Yep. There's also the Zero collection too,
Yeah.
or the Mega Man Zero ZX. So there's a lot of collections, and you could just pick them all up somewhere.
Yep.
But thanks everybody for checking us out. We really appreciate you. Give us some love on YouTube and give us some money on Patreon. We'll let you into the Discord, and you can have a good time. And if you've got anything weird you want to show us, then let us know on our social media pages, particularly Facebook. Just send us some weird crap. Or if you want to let us know in private, you could do so at whydoesthisexistshow@gmail.com. But party on, Mega Man. We appreciate you and everything that you've done for this world. And you too, Kaiji Inafune. And Akira Kitamura. Everybody involved, hugs all around, except for whoever was responsible for the artwork on the American covers for the first two games. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Kick that guy in the balls.
Yes, kick that guy in the balls. All right. This has been Why Does This Exist? I've been Chris.
And I've been Rob.
And remember, question everything.